Welcome to another scene set in the Chronicles of Darkness Vampire Requiem. Requiem for London. Tonight we set our scene in the apartment of Violet Del Tar, who is not having the most comfortable or enjoyable of evenings at all. What is Violet doing right now?
Vi enters her apartment fairly methodically as she does. There's always a routine that she has when she gets home from work, and she tosses her keys onto the table in the hall and goes into the kitchen. But tonight there's a deliberate tightness around her shoulders. The anxiety that's clearly been sitting there for a while finally starts to show itself as she just doesn't realize she's quite doing it, but starts to pace back and forth across the kitchen, deep in thought, the way you typically imagine a scientific researcher to do so, especially one of her caliber. But she just starts to pace back and forth, occasionally running her hands through her hair or fidgeting with the watch on her wrist as she remembers everything that happened.
Okay. Well, you're pacing back and forth. You begin to feel a light breeze coming from the direction of your apartment door. Appears to be some sort of draft.
She's honestly too deep inside her own thoughts to quite realize what's going on. One of her particular flaws is that if she's absorbed or if there's anxiety crossing her mind, then she'll often get too deep into it to draw herself out unless there's something very, very important going on. And the low breeze in her apartment is nothing new. She just ignores it and continues pacing.
Eventually, draft stops, and as Violet continues to pace around, she'll just hear a voice come from one of the chairs. What are you doing?
It takes her a long moment to recognize that before she looks up and just kind of swears in French when she realizes that there's been someone sitting there for God knows how long.
It is indeed exactly who she thinks it is.
I thought we talked about you breaking into my apartment without my consent.
I don't believe we ever reached an agreement.
I just sighs and kind of chooses a place in the kitchen where there's bare wall showing and no cabinets or anything, and just kind of like sits back against it, just sinking to the floor. Just, my apologies, I have been preoccupied.
Preoccupied? I hope it's of the investigation I tasked you with.
I sighs for a long moment. I haven't been able to investigate that quite yet, unfortunately. But no, I was referring to something else.
What has you in such a fuss, then? She looks somewhat annoyed. Her face is quite taut when you say you haven't investigated what she asked.
Fucking harpies.
What about the harpies?
I just kind of makes an unintelligible grumbling noise and like a gesture over her chest that looks like it's meant to ward off something. My apologies, I haven't investigated the issue yet. I was intending on getting them out this evening, actually.
You're mumbling.
One of the harpies accosted me at their club the other night. Not exactly open to interpretation.
Someone flirted with you and you're having a near traumatic breakdown.
I just kind of pointedly looks away.
And this has been what's taking up so much of your time.
No, my research has been. Work is paperwork after all.
So you can still find the time to do work, but this matter takes precedence over the laws of the domain.
Not at all, I was just having a moment, as you would call it. As I said, I was intending on getting on that tonight, actually.
Good. I'd hope so.
I am aware Pac-Man was attempting on talking to the coterie involved with this. I was going to attempt to organize to meet with him if I could. So you know as well as I do, finding him is like finding a needle in a haystack in this city.
He keeps himself well hidden.
As any wise kindred does.
So what exactly were you doing that even caught the harpy's attention anyway?
I have no clue. She just saw me at the side of the wall and was just... Does Violet Sire know French?
Does Violet know French?
It should be on a sheet.
Is it actually on a sheet? Let's be fair. She doesn't have the language merit. You need the language merit or the multilingual merit to speak another language.
Oh, thank you for clarifying. Vi just kind of like rolls her eyes, just mutters, "Stupid harpies."
Why are they stupid? Who even did this?
Amber.
Oh. Well, Violet, she's a French diva. She flirts with everybody.
Stay away from me, that would be fantastic.
Oh, your mum. I can't hear you there.
If she could stay away from me, that would be fantastic.
You're very, very quiet. You may need to speak up into your mic.
My apologies. She said if they could stay away from me, that would be fantastic.
Well, I suppose that depends. How will you get them to stay away?
I have no idea. Probably just attempt to avoid them when I can.
That would always be possible. Particularly since your new role will require you to speak with them from time to time.
Yes, I'm aware. So what exactly are you doing in my haven anyway?
I came to check your progress.
No, you could just drop by my work, right?
That's not how I work.
There's a mumble from Vi that just sounds like bloody maquette and bloody theatrics. She's definitely including herself in this umbrella. But she seems to calm down after that, and gets up, stretches, and kind of looks over at her sire and says, well, I'm going to get on to investigating it tonight, so...
I'm gonna ask... Let's see, I'm gonna ask you a few questions because... the cat things.
Oh, you know, the stereotype that we are all dark and dramatic. Nothing more than that.
So, first question is... How did Violet really feel when she was with Amber?
That's an interesting question. Horrified, revolted, sickened. Like, under the chemical fucking Dava bullshit, she was just like, oh god, get me out of here. Like, there was major panic there. She just went along with it because she's good at putting up a face. Like, her initial reaction was just, oh fuck, I need to get out of here.
And my other question is, what has she considered doing about this little problem?
Am I supposed to list everything on that list?
Oh, pardon?
Am I supposed to list every single thing that's occurred to her on that list?
Go ahead.
Jesus Christ. Well, her mind ranged from all the ridiculous things that she would never do, like murder, to, like, framing her for something. Like, talking to the Queen was on the ridiculous end of those things. But in the end, she just decided that she wasn't going to do anything. She was just going to avoid the harpies like the plague. Like, if her sire's using aspects, she'd be very much able to tell that that's a trauma like, those are trauma thoughts going through her mind. Like, once she was able to get them under control, she wouldn't actually do any of those stupid things because she is not an idiot. It was just her brain kind of going through the panic motions, like as a self-defense thing. Pretty much just fight or flight.
Your sire rests in your chair, rather loosely, and she just says, "You hold too much baggage. You need to put it behind you."
I just kind of looks at her for a moment and just kind of says, like, well, anxiety medication is all well and good when you're a morsel, but once you're a kindred, that doesn't exactly help. It's just something I've become used to.
Something that has clearly been exploited.
Sorry, come again?
Something that has clearly been exploited.
Whatever do you mean by that?
don't doubt for a second that the harpy most likely weaponized your social anxiety against you. She likely did so quite easily. It's something she's quite good at. She has many flaws and foibles, but she knows how to talk people into some very foolish things.
To be fair, out in public, I just appear as a cold fish to everyone. Vi just rolls her eyes.
Until you lost your mind at the mere thought of intimacy.
Out of character, to be fair, I think I managed to keep up the mask when that happened in the scene. Like, she didn't display any outward panic traits, she just invited the harpy to dance with her.
No, it was after that, because she bellowed and left.
Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. Vi just sighs and just runs a hand through her hair again, doesn't actually respond to that.
Which is perhaps what she was looking for. She now knows who you really are.
Well, good news, Mother. You discovered you embraced a neurotic.
If you know you're a neurotic, then why are you still acting like one?
I attempt to keep out the mask as much as I can, but even then there is sometimes only so much I can control it. Besides that, I'm more distant from the kindred anyway, being an Anku.
If you were really distant, you would not have had the reaction you had.
What's done is done. If I am lucky and keep my head down, I am sure she will... She pauses for a moment. Be more dismissive of it in the future. If I can maintain the mask, I assure you.
I doubt that. You have her attention now. They tend to be awfully possessive.
Excuse me? What do you mean by that?
I think she's going to be curious about you.
I just kind of makes a mud of it, just like, I'm never leaving my haven again.
I expect her to poke and prod you in various directions, see what reaction she can get out of you. She's an interesting one.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to pull this trick on a GM, but you can roll me perception empathy if you like.
It would be wits empathy.
Thank you.
Are you telling me to roll?
I think so.
What do you want the NPC to roll for?
To get a gauge on Violet's reaction to that.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, tell me the things. Your sire succeeded.
Violet's expression hardens just a fraction, like a tinge. There's a long moment where she stares at her sire before she kind of gives a final nod, like she's made a decision. And then it kind of goes back to the neutral, cold fish expression that everyone knows from her.
Your sire takes note of that, but doesn't say anything. I'm aware the harpy's not the only one interested in you.
Well, who else?
Oh, sorry, what?
I said who else?
I'm aware the queen has taken an interest in you.
A fraction of a second before she says that, Vi's expression just crosses into, "Oh yes, I know exactly who."
Mm-hmm. She rarely takes an interest in anyone but herself. But I've endeavoured to keep her focused elsewhere.
Why exactly has she taken an interest in me?
I don't know. She does not speak of it often. In fact, she hardly speaks on it at all. But I am
Does she know you are my mother?
Pardon?
Does she know you are my sire?
She knows a lot of things. I speak with her relatively frequently due to my own profession. It's less about what she says and what is left unsaid. For whatever reason, you fascinate her.
Why is that?
Your sire thinks on this. She looks up to the ceiling and off to the side briefly. Lopsided face. Perhaps you are reminiscent of something, or perhaps you are something new to her.
A goldfish maquette. Why? She says, like, in a very sarcastic tone. Like, it's clear she's listening to her sire's words, but also her main reaction to that is just, oh dear. I was not even the one who killed Verve, so...
Perhaps that is why you are... You are as a pebble caught in the tide of a flowing stream. Perhaps she wishes to see where you will fall.
Wishes to see where I will fall.
But I cannot say. She is difficult to read even for me.
Her Majesty approached me at her wedding, actually.
I see.
Well, this is fantastic. A queen and the harpy both interested in me. Maybe I should move to France already.
Well...
Wait, the British people pronounce that would be France, right? Yeah, sorry.
Unfortunately for you, I believe a harpy would be quite at home there.
I at that kind of just give a small smile, like it's clear that her sire kind of has managed to take the stress off her shoulders. Like, there's something intensely comforting about having her sire nearby for Violet. Call it the call of the blood or whatever the heck it is, but she actually likes being around her sire, even if she finds her absolutely incorrigible.
She's become something of an unreliable staple in your life.
Yeah.
I don't believe either will be major issues. The harpy's interests will either wane or she will find what she wants and will move on. She seeks to determine the worth in people. Believe it or not, she's in fact quite fervent in the faith of Longinus. Although she spends more of her time on mortals than kindred, but on occasion she seeks to explore or test those unfamiliar to her.
Vi just kind of gives a nod as she's just processing this information.
I cannot speak to the Queen's interests, but she is, well, her own animal.
Perhaps I should ask Bagman if he has any info the next time I see him.
I would perhaps keep this to yourself.
You're probably right about that.
Less kindred
I
seek
kind
to
of
change
actually,
Sorry.
Via actually sits down in a chair near her sire and kind of looks to her sire and it's hard to explain, but almost expectantly, just kind of waiting for her to continue.
If the kindred of the domain learn of the Queen's fascination with you, others may seek to exploit that either from you or, more likely, seek to earn the favour of the Queen by providing her with whatever it is that she may want. Perhaps it is harmless, but I'd rather not take the chance.
You're most likely right about that. I don't intend on attending any social events soon, however.
It may be wise of you to take a cue from Bagman, and he is experienced in the art of remaining out of the way. So much so that few, if any, kindred can find him, let alone the mortals. He is perhaps too good at maintaining the masquerade, if there is such a thing.
She gives a nod. I will certainly be careful.
That would be wise. I would suggest, at least, you do not approach the Queen yourself. You are talented, but you are young, and she is very old.
I'll remember that. I am not exactly the type to approach an elder as it is. And you're aware as anyone that I spent most of the earlier years of my embrace hiding from the world of kindred. I can maintain the masquerade. Or simply put, the mask.
I saw some of your mail on the way in. You still work for a living?
Vi just kind of gives a nod.
Maybe time to start looking for an alternative.
There's a long moment of pause as Violet says, before Violet says, admittedly, I worked very hard to get my degree. I'm not, quite ready to let go of it yet. She kind of pauses again and says, "That's the wrong wording. Let me see. Even as a kindred, I intend to maintain my research and my interest. It is simply a matter of when I decide to pursue it in a different way than I have been. But I tend to find that it is easier to maintain the mask among other researchers, despite their mortal status. But you are right about that. I should start looking into alternative methods, though I did not join the order like I considered."
The Ordo are natural to the maquette, but less so for us.
Might I ask why that is?
Our clan is very driven towards knowing. We generally do not seek power, at least overtly, but we do seek understanding, which makes us very natural for the Ordo, as they seek the same thing. But as the Ankal, we have obligations, and when we can relate to their desire to understand and transcend their state, their recklessness in their pursuit of those ideals, in pursuit of that understanding, puts them at odds with us just as often as they stand with us.
Certainly.
They will quite happily trample any sense of decency or morality in the pursuit of their convictions.
Vi just kind of gives a nod at that.
We cannot abide that. We have a code and we must stick to it. This is why most of us remain within the Sanctum and the Invictus. I understand the meaning of possessing a code and committing to it, to honouring it. But it is why I offered you the oath. I believed that would help. I believed it would help you understand.
Well, you've seen me at work for the past 10 or so years.
I have. It must have been quite painful.
She kind of doesn't really react to that. On some level, I suppose it always made sense.
Maybe. But even though you may understand the necessity of it, the knowledge that your mother and daughter would look at you very differently if they knew must hang over you.
Oh man, Chris, come on.
Just stating facts.
You're being a bulu again.
Go ahead and respond, Violet. You can't escape in the OC section.
She, her expression pauses and she takes out her phone and looks at our photograph for a minute or two before saying, I hope at least that Bonnet would eventually understand, though I pray she never becomes one of us. My mother, I cannot say. She and I never had the same closeness that you and I do. There's a sort of finality to those words, in a way.
I appreciate that. Most mortals cannot understand us, and those that so often do misinterpret what we do. In this, we're truly alone. We only have each other.
Vi gives a nod at that, there's a look in her eyes that conveys that understanding, though she doesn't word it.
It does sadden me, though, to see your daughter's future cut short by the plague of human frailty.
I did once have that myself.
It is perhaps the most significant reason as to why I changed you.
Vi kind of pauses and then kind of waits for her sire to continue. This is not a conversation they've had before, and she's clearly, invested in it.
You were smart, driven, and you understood the value of life. More importantly, what it means to lose it. What the cost of life's mere presence actually means. When I saw that you were going to die, I reacted quite strongly. It's not something I normally do. I had hoped that I could have at least spent some time getting to know you first. So instead I took the guise of one of the nurses and changed you there. Initially I wasn't sure whether I made the right decision. It felt rushed. You are my first and only child. It felt wrong to have your embrace feel so anticlimactic, so deceptive. And I was initially unsure as to whether I made the right decision in doing so. But then I came to the conclusion that it didn't matter. Ultimately, I had made my decision and made my choice, and because of it, you now were what you were.
Vi pauses for a long moment listening to Hasaya talk, and then says, "Would you, I suppose, still make the same decision now that you had back then?"
I believe I would have. I don't draw much passion from life anymore, from existence. However, I grow uneasy when I see you upset, and I find myself more relieved when you are content. I do not wish to see you hurt or manipulated. And while I am committed to seeing you commit to our traditions as any good Ankal would, I can't deny that I have grown fond of you.
And I of you. Vi gives her a very small but very genuine and very sincere smile. Like, it's way beyond any kind of emotion she usually shows beyond, like, stress.
Your sire gives you a slight smile back. Anyway, I believe you have an investigation to be looking into.
You were certainly right about that.
And I shall be on my way. I look forward to What do you have to report?
Certainly, I will let you know when I am able. Take care.
Likewise. And with that, she is gone, simply vanished into thin air, only an empty chair where she once was.
In the wake of her disappearance, Vi gives a small nod before pulling out her phone and gazing for a moment at a photograph of her daughter before kind of stealing her resolve and getting up.
So tell me, what do you intend to do? How do you intend to launch this investigation? Because you don't necessarily need to talk to the victims per se. And there's only a few. There's about 3 victims, I believe, which are still alive. The other 3 died. You could talk to them, you could use the powers of Auspex, you could try and confront them directly, or just walk into the hospital past visiting hours.
Honestly, I have no clue.
What would Vi do? Would she talk to them, or would she just be a bit of a voyeur and just watch and examine?
I'm not sure how she'd do this, but she'd likely attempt to find records of the loss of income and such that happened, and trace it back to any addresses or potential whereabouts she could locate. If her sire hasn't already done that.
Your sire's already done that. She's given you a report listing the loss of assets. You can actually maybe an academics role if you like to sift through
What was that?
it. You can make an intelligence plus academics roll to sift through the report that your sire has given you in Bagman.
Three successes.
Okay. So from what you can tell, most of the it appears that virtually all of the lost assets come out of a singular hedge fund. It appears to be, you would wager that this is the financial organization that the coterie is either assigned to or owns. And every it appears as if they have been, each attack has been designed to do as much information, much damage as possible. What's interesting is that it appears that
Does it look like damage that's been done for personal gain or simply just to attack?
From what you can tell, the stocks that the hedge fund has been playing with, a lot of them have been sold for vastly below their actual value. Financial incompetence that would not be tolerated within the Invictus, and certainly wouldn't earn a coterie assignment or success in running a hedge fund. It's not that the stocks are going missing, it's rather just that they're being sold below the value. You think, from what you can tell, it looks like someone hacked into various business accounts and sold off these shares and stocks for below their value. That's probably how they did it. Which doesn't leave a lot of recourse for those who are claiming they've been hacked, because as far as the official record shows, these people sold it because it was their account.
So it looks like it's been done as an attack rather than for personal gain.
Yeah. They've just been sold to, if there's one thing that sticks out, it looks like they've been sold to smaller businesses. Not
so like a
individuals.
Robin type situation?
In a sense, a lot of these businesses are quite local. They're small. They certainly don't extend out of the city. You do a quick Google search on them. And they all have their own websites, but they're not big. You know, they're very much placeholder websites. You know, what you'd expect from a small business. They're not particularly well constructed. They're quite bare.
Are there any correlation behind the businesses?
Roll me investigation if you like.
Sure. One success.
All of these small businesses appear to be placed around the outer boroughs, the least economically viable areas of London. Most of them have been sold off to more impoverished areas, although you do notice there is a cluster that appears to centre around Carthian Domain, but even then it's spread out. It might just be that the Carthians run some of the more impoverished areas. They don't have any inner city boroughs. It could be a coincidence. It could also be a deliberate red herring to play the Invictus and the Carthians against each other while an outside party does the work. But that is your current direction. Needless to say, either the individuals that run this business would either need to be associated with whoever's doing this, or this person would have needed to break into their business accounts as well.
Alright. Vi is gonna follow that lead, actually, and approach Rodney Foster.
Okay. So, you head to the garage that he's known to hang out at in Ealing. It looks almost the same as it did 10 years ago. It's a bit more spruced up now. Foster's clearly come into some money. And you arrange a meeting with him. And he'll meet you in his office.
She doesn't specifically dress like she did when she was a Carthian, and I suppose more on the trying to fit inside, but she does wear like a crop top and hoodie that's slung over her shoulders more casually, and jeans and and knee-high boots. So very much more casual than she'd ever put on in front of the Invictus.
So you walk on in, Rodney sees you. He's dressed a bit more casually today, he's not in his worksman overalls. It looks like he's just sort of... doesn't look like he's working. And he'll walk up to you. Alright, so we'll just get down to business.
Certainly.
Yeah, you seem like the sort. And to be honest, whenever a Vicky shows up to this domain, it's almost like you're lighting a fuse to fucking gunpowder, so let's just get this shit out the way.
There's something I've noticed that needs to be brought to your attention.
Alright, come into my office and let's talk about it.
She will follow him.
It's into his office. It's a fairly untidy office. Otherwise fairly indistinct. With an aging desk. And an outdated looking computer monitor on it. Thing looks like it was from 10 years ago. He just hasn't bothered to update it. The light bulb just
That's
hangs
valid.
like from a string, dimly lighting the room. And he pulls the blinds back on the window that gives everybody an inside look into the office from the main shop. So, what can I do for a fine representative of? Well, why are you here? Are you representing the Arcanate or something? The sheriffs?
No, actually, I do not work for the sheriff.
Hmm.
I had a matter that I have been investigating on behalf of a colleague, and she'll give him a quick rundown of the situation, like the hedge funds are being sold out to the specific cluster of small businesses in Carthian domain, and it might be a potential play for the Carthians and the Invictus against one another once again.
Hmm. Just sounds like more proxy war bullshit to me. I mean, I don't think I know. I'm not sure why I should feel sorry for any hedge fund managers.
I'm not assuming you would feel sorry for them. I'm simply warning you of potential fuse, as you would say.
Hmm.
Would you be able to potentially let me know if anything else relating to those businesses happen in particular?
Hmm. I guess that depends. I'm willing to work with you if you're willing to work with me.
What do you need? I'm unfortunately not a connoisseur of vehicular means.
Nothing like that. If it was car related, I'd just do it myself.
If I just kind of gives a small nod.
I just want a boon. You know, nice and simple. And I'll call it in when I need it.
What boon would you ask?
We'll call it a minor.
That seems reasonable. In exchange, you'll let me know if anything of importance happens in those businesses and any potential ties to the Invictus.
Of course. Although I wouldn't really be sure what their connections to the Invictus are, if any. We try to, you know, the whole. I'm sure you already know this, but we sort of, you know, keep Invictus influence out of this domain is sort of our whole thing. Sort of free from the Invictus. No offense.
I mean, out of character, I'm cackling, but Vi just gives a nod as she like takes in the information and says, "Anything of importance related to my investigation will be greatly appreciated."
What is your investigation then?
She, out of character, would she be able to disclose that to him?
You're already pressing the line by announcing that there is an investigation. Because if the Carthians are behind this, then you're sort of tipping them off. So you could maybe say that the hedge funds are being attacked, but you probably certainly don't want to let loose that this specific coterie or these people have been hospitalized. Maybe you can just say they noticed irregularities with the hedge funds, and it's a minor issue that, you know, I'm looking into as a neonate. You know, no one, play it down as in, you know, the Invictus don't actually care. I'm just looking into it because I want the ear of the people in charge, and the sheriffs don't think it's important. Or the Invictus authorities don't think it's important enough to look into, which you know is false, because your sire told you to look into it. You know that the Invictus are concerned that this may spread, and they're already beginning to lose money out of it.
She pauses and says, "A minor issue, but there were some irregularities with the hedge funds." She doesn't stumble in character. I'm just fucking bad at talking because I woke up like 2 hours ago.
That's fine. Just roll me Minip's because you are more or less, well, you are definitely lying to him, so. He has a wits. He would probably roll against you here because you're an Invictus. He doesn't trust Invictus. Roll manipulation is subterfuge. He'll roll his wits empathy.
One success.
Okay. What's this said? Alright. Guess that makes sense. I'll keep an eye out for you. I don't want us getting stitched up for something somebody else is doing, so.
I appreciate it. And with that, she will give a nod and exit. She's
See
very
ya.
respectful about her.
See you, bye.
Take care, Foster.
Yeah, I'm the elder here.
What did he say?
He said, I'm the elder here. Sort of referencing the fact that he's sort of like saying, you take care of yourself because I'm set.
Thank you for clarifying.
He's basically saying I'm the one that needs to be worried. But yeah. She leaves, we can end the scene there. Thank you players for playing, thank you watchers watching. We'll see you all next time. Bye bye.
Bye.